So before you start knitting, you of course have to begin with what's called a cast on. So I've got here my size 13 or 9mm needles to begin with, and I'm going to be using a bulky weight yarn from Plymouth Yarn Company. This is called Encore Mega, and this is a blend. It contains, where is it? Here it is. It contains acrylic and wool, so 75% acrylic fiber and 25% wool fiber. I prefer to use 100% natural fibers in general, but as a beginner, I would say start with something that's easily machine washable, so this way you don't have to worry about messing up your wool knit work, because if you're not careful you can accidentally felt it, which I've done quite a few times. To begin your cast on, I'm going to show you what's called the long tail cast on. For me, that is a little more complicated, but I think it looks a lot prettier than the short tail cast on. So most people begin with what's called a slip knot, but I actually skip the slip knot stage altogether. All I'm going to do is create 2 tails of yarn, and since I'm just making a swatch here, I won't make it all that long. I've got about a foot of yarn here as a tail, and then the rest of the tail is connected to the ball of yarn. What you're going to do is hold the tail within your middle ring and pinky finger, hold it tight, and then what you're going to do is put that loop onto one of your needles, and then bring your thumb and your pointer into the middle of that string of yarn. So we've got the tension on our 3 fingers here, and then the pointer and the thumb go in between that loop, all while you're holding on with your needle. What you're going to do now is hold on to this little loop of yarn here and bring your fingers up. So hold on here, bring your fingers up. You should cross your yarn at your thumb and at your pointer finger. So what I'm going to do now is bring this up and swoop your needle underneath the thumb loop. And then what you're going to do is just pick off the yarn that's on your pointer. And what you're going to finally do slowly, is pull that loop over and then increase the tension on your yarn. And that's your first set of loops for your, or first set of stitches for your knitting. So let's do that again. Hold on to the tail of the 2 tails of the yarn. Bring your pointer and your thumb in between the 2 tails. Bring up your tails so that the fibers cross. And then you're going to hold on to your needle and pick off the yarn on your thumb, and then pick off the yarn from your pointer. And you're going to slide that loop over and pull. Pick up the yarn and then slide the loop over and pull. Don't do it too tight. You want to make sure that these stitches are easily able to slide forward and back on your needle here. Grab your tails, bring your pointer and thumb in between the 2 tails, pull it up, swoop and pick, and then bring this loop over and pull. And that is the start of your long tail cast on. Since this is a sample swatch, I'm going to make about 5 more stitches here, so I'm going to go fast now. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and pull. Now the close your first set of stitches on your knitting needle. Now, if the long tail cast on was a little complicated, I will show you how to make the single or short tail cast on. So what you're going to do is start off with your slip knot. You have your 2 tails of yarn. You have the short tail here and the long one all attached to your ball of yarn here. So grab the top of this loop with your thumb and pointer on your right hand, and with your left hand, I want you to take these loops and cross them. After you cross them, pull one of the loops through, and that's your slip knot. And this knot comes right out, so if you messed up, you can always start it again. So take your tails, cross them, and pull them through. Pull one of them through. Now you're gonna slide that slip knot onto your needle. Don't do it too tight, just enough so that it can still slide back and forth on your needle. Now taking the long tail attached to your ball of yarn, which is called the working yarn, leave your tail free. What you're going to do is grab your tail with your middle pointer, your middle finger, ring finger, and your pinky. And then what you're going to do is take your thumb and loop it underneath. So loop it underneath. And then you're going to take your needle and pick the yarn off your thumb and slide that first stitch on. Again, not too tight. Don't do it too tight. Take your thumb, slip it underneath, and then pick the yarn off your thumb and pull. Swoop, pick, and pull. Swoop, pick, and pull. If you go faster, it looks like this. And that is your short tail cast on. Notice how the stitches are a little smaller on that bottom row here versus the long tail, which gives you this nice little braided look. I prefer the long tail because it looks prettier to me and it stretches, whereas this one you gotta make sure you give yourself plenty of wiggle room by not making these stitches too tight. You don't want to knit something where the base of your fabric is really tight and then the rest of it's really loose. Then you end up with like a V-shaped set of fabric, or V-shaped fabric. But that is the short tail cast on.